Welcome, Shrewdness fans. Prue, Lou, and Chiz coming at you this week. Dexter's on a tour of Vegas with his family, I think, for Thanksgiving week.
Making tons of money, I'm sure.
Yep, he's hasn't bought his yacht quite yet, but
right.
I think that's in the plans for later this week.
It's coming.
We got to bring you some more fantasy football news this week. It's a busy week. It's Thanksgiving week. There's games on Thursday. There's a Chiefs game Friday, and a full lineup on Sunday and Monday, of course. So at the Shrewdness, we do a double dose of games and picks.
It's a great week. It's a great week to be a football fan.
So let's roll right into it. We're going to start, as usual, with our Guillotine fantasy football news.
Shut up,
dude. Chiz, how'd you do this week?
That's right. Chiz has a second team. I forget about that.
My second team in the Guillotine relegation survived. I had kind of a mediocre week, but one of the fun parts about this time of the year is there's a lot of good players that come into the fray and the pool right now. So that makes it a lot of fun. We had Bymageddon. That affected a lot of people this week. I finished third to last, so I was right in the middle of the pack. But I had two of my best players out in Bymageddon. So I felt pretty good about it. And I'm feeling good going into next week. But it's going to be a fun week to talk about who's out there and available. How about you, Prue?
So the second place team had 143 points. And my team had 195.
Holy crap,
that's like one of the highest I've ever heard.
195.
The previous high of anybody in this league is 165, and I just blew it out of the water.
Yikes.
Nico Collins had 20 points, and he was 6th on my team in scoring.
Wow.
It was a ridiculous week.
So Pruitt's back to dominating a league that doesn't know what it's doing. I got you. We all thought that was going to happen.
We did.
Right? We're in a competitive league. He's in a non-competitive league.
This is a good proof case for us, though, because if a guy who's part of the Shrewdness family could go into a regular league and just completely dominate it like that, this shows the value that this podcast brings you.
I totally believe that to be true.
I agree.
Jabronis who haven't been doing this for 3 years and have buckled down and really care with a high pot. Yes.
Yep. That's right.
I will say it's a little, overall, yes, I should be winning. I think there's people that don't know what they're doing. I think there's other people that don't care. Yada, yada. I get that. But in some respects, it's harder when there's people out there like that kind of throw in the towel early. There's more competitive people that jump all over.
Yep, the good people that are left free agent wise.
And so it's really a divide kind of in the league, and now we're down to the teams that are pretty solid. I do think I have the best team, but there's another guy with slightly more fab right ahead of me, or right with me.
We're not gendering anyone.
Just in case, there can be women who play Guillotine, and we're here for you ladies too, or non-gendered individuals.
Actually, we are the number one podcast amongst females for Guillotine.
Yep,
number one.
Absolutely.
I
think we have good stats on that.
There is a lady named Lisa in our league, and she's made it to the top 6. So
hey, there we go. I like to see that.
You don't have to be a guy to know ball.
No, that's right. You don't. That's for sure.
All right. So I do want to bring up, and it's a very good point here. I can say this year, and we all have agreed that with our extra scrutiny, we have been consistently monitoring. We haven't fallen off at this point, right? And we have all been really clear on this. I do believe that this whole fab spending situation has really been enlightening this year for us.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
I feel like we have learned more than we've ever learned before. And I've been aggressively still following all the bidding in all the leagues that I'm somewhat associated with. And I've learned right now, God, I know it's crazy. Do your best to just let other people continue to spend their fab as much as you can. You got to try to like stay alive, but just also remember, if people are outbidding you, sometimes that's okay. In fact, it may be better.
Yeah, that's true. That's a very good point.
Yeah, in most cases, I was totally on board with that all year, all season. And this year I had CMC, Justin Jefferson, and Josh Allen come available in the same week.
Woo!
And like I said, it's really me and this one other guy that have very similar teams. He's already got Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase on his team. I don't think I can let him have Justin Jefferson.
Right.
I think I have to try to go after him this week.
Well, and you also need to think about what week it is, because so players on teams chopped after week 14 are unavailable.
Oh, yeah, this is a new thing that happened last year, but is like a legit. You can block people by like dropping them after this whole. The best example, if those who want to know like the fancy stuff that's happening right now, anybody who has Kareem Hunt can like wait and then drop him when Pacheco comes back, and you're probably going to be able to keep it so that nobody can get Pacheco or can get Hunt again. If Pacheco then goes back down and Hunt becomes relevant, he can get lost in the 4-week sauce. If that makes sense.
That's right.
This is something that Paul Charchian posted, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a strat because you may not want him because he may not have the value of Pacheco.
Yes. Yeah, you can.
Yeah, with basically two sessions, right? You got this week and then next week as the last two kind of bid sessions to go. And I spent way too much time today scrutinizing the other teams in my league. What do they need? How much fab do they have? How can I mess with them to either avoid them picking up the guy they need, or maybe I can swing two guys where normally I would only expect to get one. Like, how can I play this? And
that's right.
I probably talked.
It's all about the end game. It's all about end games, guys. Right. So we all know everybody's rosters are going to be phenomenal if you're still alive after week 14. But I think it was Dexter this week that said, "Hey, it's a lottery ticket at that point, right? You just got to make sure you got guys that you're comfortable starting in that kind of all-star framework, because
you could have the
after
best
week
team in the
14,
world.
What do you got? Four? You got 4 guys left. 4 teams.
Everybody's going to be an all-star team. Everyone's going to be the best fantasy football lineup that you can ever imagine, and you could have the best on paper lineup and still lose.
Yeah,
just with the variability of fantasy football. Who knows what could happen with that? I gave advice to somebody who was asking me guidance, and I really believe that this is where you need to be right now. There should not be any $1 or $2 bids for the most part at this point.
Yeah, that's right.
Bench spots are too critical, and you have to remember that everybody else's bench spots are just as critical. Like right now, like Rachaad White is likely a casualty of bench spots, and he could be a starter for most of the year. And so, like, if you were like worried about like, oh, maybe I could grab this guy for cheap, but also you could probably just not bid, and they're probably going to be in the bloodbath. And even in the bloodbath, everybody else may not care to pick them up.
I mean, guys you've stashed, like Lewis, exactly like you said, guys like Jalen Warren, you're not stashing anymore. They're probably not on your bench. You don't have time for guys like, maybe a Calvin Ridley or a Wan'Dale Robinson, somebody like that, right? Those are guys that like are borderline, and you're probably not starting them. If you're starting some of those guys who've been good productive for you all year, you need to look at yourself and go, do I really want to ride with those guys right now?
Yep.
Like, you need stars now.
It's crazy to me that Tank Dell, who I rode for much of the year to kind of help keep my head above water, who I got really cheap and seemed like a great starter, he probably should be at best your like third, maybe protected bench slot. He might even be just droppable in most leagues.
Yeah.
And he really could be a fine starter. He might be one of our sleepers this week, but I don't think you should be relying on Tank Dell this week.
Now, the other thing to think about as you're going into your bidding this week is who still has buys left, okay?
Oh, yes.
And you could
got
get
them,
tripped
Jizz?
up here. So there's a few teams that still have buys left, right? You got Houston in week 14 that still has a buy left. So if you're looking at Joe Mixon, you're looking at CJ Stroud,
Aforementioned Tank Dell.
Tank Dell,
Nico
right?
Collins.
Nico Collins.
Also, you've got Baltimore with a week 14 bye. They're a week 14 bye. So you're looking at a lot of talent on Baltimore, right? So
Yep. Lamar,
that's a real
Derrick
concern
Henry.
for you to think about. Lamar, Zay Flowers, Derrick Henry, like these are all guys that you need to be thinking about. If you've got them on your team, you're going to have a hole. I'm not saying it's bad to have them on your team still, but you need to make sure you got somebody to fill in week 14 that you're going to be comfortable with. So be thinking about that when you're going into this week and your fab. Also think about that when you're thinking about bidding. Like,
I
for
said
instance,
that. You said Indy, right?
Oh, I didn't say Indy.
No.
I didn't say
Oh,
Indy.
Indy's crazy with Josh Downs and Jonathan
Yeah.
Taylor.
That's right.
So
And,
you
uh,
got
that one
Indy.
too.
Washington.
That's a good
also.
call out. And then you got
Washington's
Washington.
Jaden Daniels, Zach Ertz, maybe.
Terry McLaurin.
Scary
Yeah,
Terry.
Yeah, Zach Ertz, that guy. Who would ever bet against that guy, right?
Right? Who would bet against Zach? Who would go under on Zach Ertz? That would be foolishness.
Y'all follow
And-
the socials. Y'all know the joke.
Right. And so, like, also think about those guys when they're in bidding because, like, I know in one of my leagues, Joe Mixon's available. I love Joe Mixon. I'm scared about his week 14 bye, though.
I wouldn't
And-
spend a lot on anybody
Right.
anybody who might help you this week but will kill you next week. It's just not worth it. There's very
Right.
limited dollars to be spent this week. So any buys for next week be high. I honestly wouldn't bid at all. It's not
Yeah.
worth it.
Yeah.
Unless you are dead in the water without like their production this week. You've got to ask yourself, am I dead without this person this week? Spend your money.
I've got Jane Daniels and Nico and Cortland Sutton on my team. Luckily, I have Baker Mayfield as my backup, and he's got a decent matchup in week 14. And I'm hopeful that I'll pick up another receiver, the aforementioned Justin Jefferson bidding that's going to happen this week.
Yeah.
If I don't get him, I still have, I've got AJ Brown and I've got Lad McConkey. And then I got a bunch of running backs that I can start.
AJ Brown versus Philly this week. That's a play. Or AJ Brown versus Baltimore. Yeah,
totally.
That's a play. Ooh,
yeah,
totally.
He and Nico Collins are listed as number 1 and number 2 receivers this week in their matchups. So I'm
all right. Well, we got to move on to our segments, right?
Let's hit segments. Let's talk. Okay, how did we do? Because guys, I got to tell you. All right, our betting this year on the games has been below average for us.
We had a pretty good week, though.
But this week, we did good. We'll talk about that. But I will say, we're going into Shrewdness Sleepers, Shrewdness Spuds. Shrewdness Sleepers, we have been phenomenal on.
They're pretty
and
good.
If you have followed us and taken this advice when you're in a tough spot and you need somebody, you're going to be real happy with how you've done. So how did we do this week, Prue?
Well, I hit my 6th in a row, Shrewdness fan.
6 in a row for Prue on sleepers.
We need to up the criteria or something. This is getting
right.
too
This
easy.
is getting too easy, right? Do you understand how easy this is for me?
So
Do you understand?
even I amazed myself this last week.
Who did you pick this week?
I picked Waddle,
Oh yeah,
and he had a crazy good game.
right.
I didn't write down this. I mean, it was like 30 points or something crazy.
He had a lot.
Let me look it up. It was
He had a
impressive.
lot this
Well,
week.
I will own my bleeping, bleep it or bleepity. I took Quentin Johnson.
Bum, bum, bum.
And anybody who enjoys watching people fail, Quentin Johnson had the worst Monday Night Football game I think I've ever seen a premier player who was theoretically a starter.
Pretty bad.
It was unreal. He had an unrealized 200-yard game because he dropped so many, like, if he catches that, that's 60 yards. If he catches that, that's 40 yards. It was insane to watch him drop all of this stuff. We may or may not have picked him on our socials as one of our prop players, so that's what also hurts. The sad part was that I think I was right. I think I was right. I think the Shrewdness folks were right. He just is he's bad. And sorry, I had to do a little self-editing there. That dude absolutely bleeped us, and
he had some serious Kadarius Toney vibes. It was like he had the look in his eye like Kadarius Toney had, where it's like, don't throw me the ball. Like, he had this look like, oh no.
The third down play that hit him right in the hands.
Yeah, I think
almost exactly like Kadarius
Shrewdness is in the we're done with that dude guy.
Yeah,
we're never trusting Quentin again.
He had a rough
be
game.
Great. He's missing. He's missing us. We're not doing that.
Yeah, be great for somebody else at this point.
He had a rough game. Waddle had 28.4 Prue.
Nice
points.
134 yards and a touchdown.
I, on the same team, amazed myself with the tight end Jonnu Smith.
Yeah,
who dropped 23.7 points out of your tight end.
That was funny because it was early. You already knew he was like the first touchdown in that game, and it was like, oh, it's the Jonnu Smith game. Awesome.
Yes,
right.
He had, and by the way, he got targeted 11 times by Tua. He got 9 catches, 87 yards, and a touchdown out of your tight end spot.
Nailed it.
So he's definitely clicking. Now, who did we have? Dex. Do we have his pick? I don't know if we were going to be able to talk his or not. I forget who we had.
Probably somebody who sucked is probably a Viking.
Probably somebody like, on the Vikings. It's probably some public Vikings pick.
It was
Sam Darnold.
TJ Hawkinson.
Sam Darnold.
Hall of Famer.
Sam Darnold's gonna torch him.
Sam Darnold and TJ Hawkinson are Hall of Famers after this year.
All right, there you go, Dex. I appreciate it. Maybe they didn't quite come through for us that last time. That's fine.
Say his name, Sam Darnold.
Rudy Rudiger and his ability to throw the ball for the Minnesota Vikings.
All right, cool. Hey, we actually have his upcoming. Oh yeah, he played.
He texted.
Yeah, he may not be here, but we've got a very two form pick for his sleeper.
Wait, so last week he got Ertz.
He picked,
and Ertz got 15.8, so he hit for you.
So that actually works.
So we got 3 for 4 on last week's sleepers. So let's roll into this week. So I thought we would hit about 25-30% of our sleeper picks.
We're doing pretty good.
We're well over 50. We're probably close to 60. So who we got this week?
First of all, criteria is 13 exact points. If you get 13 this week, then you are probably in the money by getting your at least average for that person. So what I've been looking at, and I've just been in love with I watch every week. I watch it as much as I can every week. I will say last week I did not watch as much because I was actually at the Chiefs game. To be a little bit full disclosure, once you actually go to a game, you basically get lost in the sauce and you miss a lot of games.
That's right.
But I will say our criteria this week, we went with 55% with the goal of getting 13 points. And you're like, well, 55%, I may not have access to that person. But the problem is we have to pick people who actually have a reasonable chance of getting you 13 points. So we can't just pick like these darts at 20% that you absolutely can get because they're probably not going to get you 13. Back in the day, we could rely on 8, 9, or maybe even 10 points. Now we got to get 13. That's pretty difficult to do. I love, and I have been banging the gong for Calvin Ridley for Tennessee.
There we go.
47.7%. That dude absolutely gets targeted. If you watch the games, he is a focal point for the offense. Yeah. Even if he's not necessarily producing at times, you have opportunity. He's getting targets, and they are running specific design plays to utilize his athleticism.
Yeah,
it's a little bit boom or bust, but I think you have to take sometimes risk if you're throwing darts at this point in the season. And I do believe he is likely to get you closer to 20 points than 0, and that's who I would pick.
I like that pick, and it's not like Will Levis doesn't have arm talent.
And they're going against a defense. And A does not mean A as in the grading scale. I mean ASS.
Yes, I agree. That's an interesting pick, and I like it. All right. Well, I will go ahead and pick a very controversial pick right now.
I will pick as John Dexter after you, to give Pruitt more time.
Oh no, you go ahead first. You do.
So I gotta say, there's nobody else that I could possibly pick that would be better than a Minnesota Viking, because everybody on the Minnesota Vikings should be in the Hall of Fame this year. They're the best. And I think that Jordan Addison at 19.4% would be an amazing pick. Arizona also has a horrific defense, and this week Sam Darnold can actually play in the NFL.
Absolutely. I love it. I completely.
He called in for that one, by the way. That wasn't me.
He did, and I'm 100% in favor of that pick because, what could go wrong with him? He had a massive game last week, so why not back-to-back massive games?
He's amazing, and he's got a great quarterback throwing to him.
It could happen. It could happen. Who are they playing? Who are the Vikes playing this week?
Arizona.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's a terrible defense. Arizona defense has been a little bit better than predicted, but it's supposed to be terrible.
Yep. I'm going to go with, after looking at some running backs, there's a couple that are 54% owned. I'm going to go with Rachaad White.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Well, I like that. I'd date Rachaad White if I could.
I like that a lot.
God, I love that dude. Hey, where's he from?
Rashad?
I can only guess.
Yeah. Where was he
He's
developed?
From Kansas City, Missouri.
Born and raised in Kansas City,
Missouri.
That's right.
That's
right. Howard Johnson is right.
That boy's from Missouri. And
so his
anybody catch the Howard Johnson is right reference?
I did.
Anybody know where that's from?
I did.
What's that from?
Howard Johnson is right.
That's a Blazing Saddles
reference on this
podcast.
Thank you.
That is a Blazing Saddles reference on this podcast.
That's right.
Thank you so much.
That's the deep cuts that you can only get here.
That's right. If you ever hear me say Howard Johnson is right, it's a Blazing Saddles cut. That's what I'm talking about.
Rachaad White's minimum score the last 5 weeks is 11.7. So I think he's got a good shot at hitting 13 again.
He's a weird mix of catches and stuff. I love Rachaad White.
Yeah, I do too. He's a fun pick, and I like that pick a lot. He was one I was considering as well.
I think he's got a great floor. He may not get you 15, but he's probably likely to get you 10.
He's
and
gonna
hopefully he gets
10
that
12.
13 number.
Okay, so I got my sleeper this week, and you may think, I don't know, but we're going D-Hop. So I think this is a D-Hop touchdown week is what I think this is. And if
relatively
you get a D-Hop
low on the percentage, if I remember right.
I'm kind of shocked that he's
41,
sitting around here at 41%. And I love the matchup in Vegas. And I think D-Hop is going to cash in. So I think he's going to get a tutty. I think what he's shown over the last few weeks is he is the most reliable receiver on the club. And I think that right now the Chiefs are looking to put it on somebody. They haven't done it. And I think that you're going to see a steady dose of D-Hop and Kelsey this week because that's who Patrick trusts. And I'm going to take advantage of it with D-Hop as my shrewdest sleeper.
Call him vacuum hands.
Oh.
That dude, and when you've been watching a lot of Chiefs football and you see a lot of dropsies, and that dude just like sucks the ball.
He's
in
so
as it's close
fun to watch.
It's weird to watch when you're so used to people with not vacuum hands. My only issue with this week with the Chiefs that makes me a little bit anxious is where have they struggled as people who watch a lot of Chiefs? What has been the one key area that they've struggled the most in?
Injuries this year.
Protecting Patrick.
They can't.
Keeping him upright. I've never seen this many sacks, and they're going against Yahoo Max Crosby. That is my one worry is that like they are not going to be able to keep Max Crosby off him.
That's fair.
I don't know if it's going to they may be able to compensate this week. They have smart people. Like, I get it.
Well, and aren't we going to start working in our new left tackle, right?
I don't know if he's going to be ready this week.
No.
That's my issue.
Okay. Crosby lines up on the left, though, doesn't he? He's going against Taylor.
I still think it's a good pick, Chisholm.
Taylor. Well, if he's going against Taylor, he'll just hold him. So don't worry about it. If he's going against Taylor, Taylor will just tackle him out of the game.
Andy Reid is smart enough to chip.
All right, I think it's time to move on to Spuds.
Let's do our Shrewdness Spuds. All right.
How were our Spuds last week?
Dexter.
I probably sucked. I've never gotten a good one.
No, Spuds have been harder for us.
We make it hard on ourselves.
We do.
I've hit 4 in a row there.
You have one, Spuds?
Yeah, Pruitt's smarter than us.
I was terrible. We were all terrible week 9. That was the Garrett Wilson pick that he had his career day.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
Then I picked CeeDee Lamb in week 10, Drake London week 11, Pickens week 12. This week's pick is Mr. Joe Burrow going against Pittsburgh.
I nailed mine last week.
Who was your last week?
DK Metcalf.
Oh, yeah.
DK Metcalf, 4 catches, like 46 yards. He really didn't help you. Yeah, that's right. Lou the Shrewd nailed it.
Yeah, that was a good pick. He did not have a good... And surprisingly, because they played well, but he did not have a good game. I took a very high risk pick, if I remember correctly.
I didn't start us out right. We should have gone through last week's pick. Lewis already said his, which he hit. George Pickens was my pick last week. 8.8 points.
Yep,
nailed it.
4 catches
and one fight. Don't forget the one.
And a fight.
Don't forget the one fight in the middle of the snow for no reason.
And a fight.
That's a George Pickens love.
That is a George Pickens line right there.
Dexter picked Mixon, right?
Oh yeah, and he had a relatively soft.
He had a quiet game for Mixon. Mixon had 9.5 points, so that's a hit.
He would have been a fail for our.
Again,
we went less than 12 last week.
Less than 12.
12 and a half. Yeah, 12 and a half was our last week's.
I went really high risk, if I remember correctly. I think I picked Derrick Henry. Did I?
He actually wasn't great.
No, he wasn't, but I still think he edged above the target.
You
did pick him because I had him written down, remember? And you went
14.
14.
He squeaked over.
I missed by half a point, or a point and a half.
That's not terrible. That's not terrible. Like, he really did not save anybody last week. Trust me, the person who had Derrick Henry in our league was sweating until the fourth quarter.
That's right. He was definitely, it wasn't we're counting it as a miss, but it wasn't horrible given what he usually puts out. For sure.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the worst you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry and Joe Mixon average a combined 40 points a week. And they got
Wow. Yeah. No, you're right. They got 8
last week.
Yeah,
or whatever. 19.
That's a really So we had our finger on the pulse again this last week. So let's see who we think of this week. So Buds. And our criteria
Can I cheat a little bit?
What do we say it's got to be?
I got an easy one. I feel terrible, but like our criteria is going to be what? I mean, looking at the first page of the highest percentage owned,
right?
Like 70.8's the first page.
70.
I want to take somebody who's in the top half of that first page. That's fair, right?
Oh, do it. Yeah.
I gotta say, I hate to fade the guy. Jaden Daniels against Tennessee. Tennessee has been a great defense. Jaden Daniels owning 76.5%. Technically, he's in the number 12 overall in the most owned people.
Yeah.
I just think the defense is really good. He's been struggling. He is, I think, really probably injured, and they're not really telling people. Ever since he had some type of rib injury, that dude has not been running.
Yep.
He did have a good week last week, despite the crazy loss. He got 30.4 points.
He had a good second half.
Yeah. Yeah.
30.4 points. So you'd be thinking, oh, maybe he's going to do it again. I think this is a bad matchup. Tennessee has been very effective. I think this is a very good time to try to find a better answer.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I think that's a good
And I'm
pick.
taking a relatively high risk pick with somebody who's owned in most.
Let's say
Basically, he's
Baker
unattainable.
Mayfield.
Right.
Would you go with Baker against Carolina?
Carolina.
Over Jaden Daniels? Absolutely. I really do think that's
Yeah,
is a
I
decision
think
would likely make.
I think I would probably do that too.
Yeah.
I'll take a look and see what some fancy people say, but go ahead, continue.
Yeah.
It's like neck and neck on Fantasy Pros. Already
Okay,
looked.
well then you took my thing. Yes, you.
Yeah.
If it's neck and neck, then I absolutely would take Baker. But I have to admit, I'm a little bit of a Baker stan after he ran down and made that block after that pass he
It's
threw.
pretty phenomenal.
That was amazing against the Giants. That dude won me over.
I mean,
hard.
you gotta give him credit. The dude balls out. I've never been a
cares.
fan, but I like the way he plays for sure.
He cares. That dude cares.
He's one of those guys
I love
that I
that
would
he
love
cares.
on my team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like him playing against him. Although I will say one of my favorite moments was the eye roll whenever they lost the coin toss against the Chiefs because he knew he was effed at that point. It was like, oh, well, I'm not going to even bother getting my helmet back on.
Yeah, but he would also agree with that.
Right?
So.
It's so true. So true. Okay, I'll tell you, I'm taking a risky pick.
Okay.
I am going with George Kittle. George
I love it.
Kittle, who is...
I mean, hell, it's George Kittle. He may not play.
I mean,
You never know.
You don't
It's
know,
George
but
Kittle.
if you look in terms of George Kittle, he's owned by 77% right now. He's like top 15 in scoring for the year.
Yeah.
He's done really well. I really hate him in Buffalo.
Buffalo's defense is not supposed to be good. But newsflash, Buffalo's defense has been actually reasonably good. They can't stop the run.
No.
Okay, but they've
that's
actually
right.
done a reasonable job with
They
stopping the
can't
pass.
stop the run, but I do like them against the pass, and I do like them.
Yeah.
I don't like George Kittle flying across the country to freezing cold Buffalo either. So I think he's going to be my spud. If you got another option at tight end, I would look at it this week.
I'm always anxious about George Kittle, though. That's an easy one for me.
Right. Well, who did Dex have for spud? Have we already picked his spud? He had
Dexter picked Derek.
Oh, we already.
Derek
Hold on,
Henry.
no, I got to be. Excuse me. Dexter just called in.
Okay.
He just called in.
What does he say? What's Dexter say?
Well, let me tell you, you have no idea how good Philadelphia's defense is. That's an iron curtain of a defense. And what I would say is that Derrick Henry and his aged bones are just not going to quite get you there. Any other options against a better defense or a worse defense, I would definitely take anybody but Derrick Henry this week.
Why do I feel like, Dex, you sound a little bit like Mickey Mouse? I feel like
Your
I've been
microphone's
drinking
messed up.
hard in Vegas, and I just get a little bit weird at that point.
Well, I like
I
it.
don't know.
I think this is the time of the year to. I will agree with Mr. Dexter this week. I think it's the time of the year to fade Mr. Henry. He's getting old.
I would say that
bones.
my impression is Derrick Henry tends to really blast, and then he tends to fade
Yeah.
when he's already ahead of stuff.
Yeah.
The only issue I have is that Baltimore needs every game.
They do.
They've lost all the games they can lose at this point. They really can't afford to have any more fails.
They do.
Although I guess this week against Philly, it's an NFC team.
If you're gonna lose,
It's
this is
not
probably the time to
terrible.
lose, right?
If you could lose one last one before you run the table, this would be the one to lose. Philadelphia has a pretty darn good defense. I mean, I know that Dexter
They're on
called
a
in
hot-
and he made that whole
hot streak,
thing.
too.
It's reasonable for him to pick.
Yeah,
them.
it's not a bad pick. It's not a bad pick at all.
It's a
So-
high risk pick. High risk pick. I
And
like it.
if
The
you
other-
go ahead,
The other thing that you got to keep in mind is that Derrick Henry doesn't catch passes.
never.
It does hurt
Right.
in a PPR.
He
Never.
ran for 140 yards last week, and he got 14 points exactly.
Right.
He didn't score a touchdown.
He did not catch a
He
pass.
didn't catch anything.
You know who he
So
caught the
his last
same
3
number of
weeks-
passes as?
Me.
He got the same number of passes as Quentin.
Is every
Our
shrewdness
boy
person-
Quentin.
That's Quentin.
The same number of passes.
The shrewdness scourge, who we will never ever pick for any reason for anything ever again.
And fewer targets.
And fewer targets. That's right. That's right. But you're right,
Yeah,
though, Lewis.
it's-
They are. The Ravens are. They're sitting now 8-4. It's not a spot to lose.
Yeah. Yeah, this is going to be
The AFC North is rough.
Yeah.
And I just think you got to be hyper careful. You don't want to get caught up. You've already got Pittsburgh, who is still competitive. They did lose. That did help. But they don't have a lot of leeway. And so I could see them pushing Derrick Henry more than people would tend to push Derrick Henry at this time of year at his age.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that makes me a little nervous. But Philly's got a good defense, and if they had to lose one more game this year, it's against an NFC opponent. It doesn't hurt as much. You get less tiebreaker pain. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I like it. So speaking of, it's hard to pick. It's hard to pick this time of year. But let's talk about our picks. So last week we had, for the first time in a long time, a winning week straight up, 3-1. And we only lost the one by a half point, unless you were like Lewis and you happened to catch the -3 on Minnesota. I will
The
say
30
this:
minutes that it was open.
we should have run the table this week. We should have. If the Vikings knew how to recover an onside kick, we would have run the table. Most of us went 3-1. Lewis went 3-0-1. Therefore, securing
It matters
his parlay.
because if you're putting it in a parlay, for those of you who don't gamble very much, if you put a game in a parlay and you push, what happens is they drop the game out, they reduce your odds, but you get the payout.
Yep.
Unless you're doing what's called a sweetheart teaser or something
Yeah.
like that. If you look at the rules, vast majority of the time, sweethearts, you lose
Yeah.
on those.
You lose that tie.
So,
but
a regular parlay, they just drop it out. So I
drop
got
the
paid
game.
out on all of
Lou got all his
Robin.
bets. Officially, we were
Yep.
3-1, and we got our tees.
Can I keep talking about how I won all of those bets?
Yeah.
'Cause I really like talking about
Yeah.
that. It's awesome.
Yeah. So we got three. We were 3-1.
I was near rebuy, man.
And we got our tees. So that's not a bad week for us. So we're starting to pick momentum up. We're going to give you double picks this week. So we
got a
at
lot
the
of
Shrewdness, we like this
Super
is
picks
this
this
is like
week.
a Super Bowl week for us because you got Thursday games and then you got Sunday
Gotta do it.
games. So we're going
We
to
don't
give you
do
picks
we don't
for
do
both.
Chiefs games for the most part.
No.
We'll do island props, which will go out on our socials for the Friday game, but we don't generally pick the Chiefs game, although Dexter may have it picked the Chiefs game.
Yeah.
Dexter picked their opponent.
But as long as it's not on the Chiefs, we're okay.
Yeah,
We
that's
can be
right.
okay betting against the Chiefs because if we win, great emotional hedge.
Right, emotional hedge. So we've got our Thursday games and then our Sunday games. So we're going to start out after a 3-1 week with our Thursday games. Dog. Prime Prue. What are we going with this week on your Thursday pick?
So Chicago and Detroit match up on Thursday. It's a short week. It's a division game. I'm going with the under. 48.5
Love it.
is where it's set right now. I could see this being a 24-14 game, something like
Love
that.
it. I think it's a good pick. I love the interdivision unders, especially on short weeks. Especially on a short week at 11:30 game. Holy cow! There's going to be some beat up bodies in that game.
Yeah,
Everybody
yeah.
tends to expect like that follow everybody who has like their team and they follow them. They look at every other team and they just forget about the interdivisional nature of it.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. It's like everybody is like, I listen to them talk about like the Chiefs versus the Raiders, the Chiefs versus the Broncos, the Chiefs and every time I'm like, oh man, that game sucks. Last year the Chiefs played the Chargers. The Chargers were 2-14 or whatever,
Yeah.
2-15, and I hated every game.
Yep.
I was always scared and nervous about every game. And everybody who follows a team has the same mantra of, oh man, I hate these interdivisional games. But every time we see Chicago-Detroit, we're like, oh yeah, Detroit kicks ass and Chicago's not that good. But we forget that the people who actually watch this stuff are like, who care about Chicago and Detroit are like, I hate this game, right?
Yeah.
Am I right?
That's
like,
true.
hey, trust me. All of the Shrewdness Detroit and Chicago fans out there are like, yeah, Lewis, you totally agree with you. So
That's so true.
I love that interdivisional. Like, it's going to be a lot more competitive than it looks like it's going to be. I mean, I think if it were a side, it probably would be Chicago because it's probably going to be more competitive than
I
you think.
agree.
But I do love the fact that you're taking the under. It's a great idea.
Little
Montgomery and Amon-Ra are both a little beat up.
questionable for this game. I think Amon-Ra will probably play. I don't know about Montgomery.
According to Coach Speak, this is the thing. I mean, gives everyone Coach Speak.
Yeah.
It's actually a website that tracks what coaches say and what it means ultimately. So they take the literal phrases that coaches say, and then they correlate it with, do they actually play or not, right? And
Interesting.
Dan Campbell says whatever he said about David Montgomery, they're 90% to play.
Oh, okay. So he's probably in.
And he says these same phrases a lot. So I love it.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
It's a tell.
So I think you're likely to get David Montgomery too.
So you're going to have Sonic and Knuckles in the game for this one.
I think you are. But I could also see Montgomery not getting as much run, something like that.
So little statistics for you guys on divisional unders. Divisional unders hit 60% of the time, and for an ROI of 16%. So it's a very, very good bet to make. And it's because of a lot of what we were talking about. Lou was saying, you forget that these teams see each other a lot. They know each other. They know the tendencies. Yep. They're tighter. Most of the time, you're going to get a tighter game than you expect, even if it's a team that should be blowing out another team. So, so look at the under for that one. We like that a lot. Lou, what's your pick for the Thursday games?
Man, I got to ride my thing.
Yeah.
Right? I got to ride my thing.
And what is your thing?
What I got, my thing is that I called last week that probably the worst team in the NFL and the team that has decided it wants to be the worst team in the NFL is the New York Giants.
Yes.
That they were actively trying to be the worst team in the NFL. And I think they have given Brian Daboll the golden pass of do whatever you want, lose as much as you want, you ain't going to get fired.
Right.
There's no hot seat here. Do what you need to do to get the horse into the stable. And so I really think that the Cowboys kind of have this bizarre desire that they want to win.
Yeah, seems that way.
Yeah, they just beat the Commanders when everything said roll over, get a better draft pick. No, old Jarrah says I want to win. So I think Dallas at home against the Giants, who are trying to lose, and I get less than a touchdown. I think it's 5.5 is what we saw. I think it's your best bet.
3.5.
3.5.
Yeah.
I think you got to take Dallas here. I think that you just have two teams trying to go different directions. I hate that it's a little public, but at the same time, I really do believe that the Giants are actively trying to make this a thing.
So I will say,
it worked last week. I'm going to ride it again this week.
I see it and I like it. And I for whatever reason, I don't think the Cowboys are actively tanking. Although I will say as a side note, I would love one of the big rumors here in Dallas is when they lost several in a row was that the Cowboys were going to try and tank to get Shedeur Sanders, which I am all for the circus in Dallas. I would love Shedeur Sanders here. Matter of fact, bring Deion too. Bring Deion as the coach, Shedeur as the quarterback. Let Jera.
What was the
run it.
other rumor? What's the other rumor?
But then the other rumor after they won this week is now there's a rumor that Mike McCarthy and Jera are in contract extension discussions. So you never know what's going to happen in Dallas. You don't know what's happening in that place.
It's such a.
Oh, it is. Hey, I got to tell you what. If you were a non-Cowboys fan living in Dallas, it is primo theater every week. It is such a wonderful thing to watch. I got to say, I got a front row seat to the biggest bleep show in the NFL. It is so great.
I just love that you got a bunch of people who can't challenge the Chiefs, and that's great.
I know. It's so great. All right, so...
You'll never challenge the Chiefs with Mike McCarthy.
No.
Never.
Oh, my God.
Never once.
You won't
I'll take that bet. I'll take that bet right now.
You won't
I will bet every dollar I've ever made, and we're talking probably 6-7 figures type stuff.
Yeah.
Like we're talking crazy numbers.
Yeah.
I would bet everything that they will never beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
I agree.
Ever.
I agree.
Never.
It's not happening.
Even
as long
if
as Jira is there, it's not happening.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. No, that is a caveat.
That's the caveat for sure. So I am going to take back to picks. Those are two good picks. I'm taking an under in a night game, and it's Miami Green Bay. And it's not because I don't like either of these teams, but it's supposed to be cold, 33 degrees a kick. So I'm going to get colder from that point. And we know how well Tua does in the freezing. Not good.
That was the thing. I kind of liked Miami until we talked about the temperature, and then I started to get like queasy as probably Tua is right now.
Really struggles when it's that cold. And you've got a really unpredictable team in Green Bay who could look great and who could look really bad. So
and has looked bad in weather.
For sure. Yeah, that's the weird thing. They've looked bad in weather. So I don't like the freezing cold, so I'm going with the under, I believe it's 47-ish. 47.
Still not.
Relatively high.
Yeah.
That's more than I expected.
For that game, I don't like that number, so we're going to go under there as my lock for Thursday. And then Dex, did Dex have a pick that he mailed in, guys, from Vegas?
He did.
He did, and literally Vegas.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So he's going anti-Chiefs.
Bizarrely, did not take a actual, he took Vegas, which is not actually in what we were expecting a Thursday game.
Right.
He took a Friday game, which, I guess it kind of half counts.
I guess we'll let him do that one. So we'll do Thursday, Friday parlay, and it's probably a smart pick.
12.5. Took Vegas plus 12.5, and I hate that I love it, but it's a great pick.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
It's probably printing
Chiefs.
Yeah, it is. Like, how in the world?
When's the last time the Chiefs beat anybody by 12?
When's the last time the Chiefs covered? Like, it just doesn't happen. So
please don't do it.
So,
and that's great. Maybe this is a hedge pick, and we're just trying to like make it a thing, and all of a sudden they come out and butt F everybody. But whatever, it's not happening.
I don't think it's going to happen. I think 12.5.
2-9 team versus a 10-1 team. How could they possibly cover 12.5 points? And they're going to.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. It's not a bad pick. Okay, so on to our Sunday
weekend picks.
Sunday. We've told you guys the trick on the Chiefs. Live line them after they go down. That's the moneymaker with the Chiefs. Do not get them prior to the game on the money.
Take the best line you can get. Yeah. Grab the best line in the game. Live betting.
That's right. That's the only way to do it. Even this week, even though Vegas has caught on to this week I got a couple units in at a minus 250, even when they were down, and I was like, hey, I'll take it. Man, we won some money there. So so that's what you got to do with the Chiefs. So Sunday games. Let's
recap Thursday.
Oh yeah, okay. Thursday.
Recap Thursday is Chicago, Detroit under, Miami, Green Bay under, Dallas minus, and Las Vegas plus.
Okay.
All right.
I like
those
it.
are Thursday, Friday picks.
That feels like a 4-0 start.
Dallas minus to I doubt it's going to get there, but Dallas minus to 7.
Yeah.
I know we're going whatever, just vaguely whatever, but I think you can take that pretty deep.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
May ladder some on that.
Yeah, actually, I think a ladder's not terrible. I might Old Lou might do some laddering.
Might do some
laddering's
ladder.
fun when it hits. When I laddered the Denver the other day, that saved my
I've had a couple great ladders this week, or this year, so I think that's not a bad thing to look at there. All right, so that's a recap on Thursday, Friday. After you go 4-0 in those games, you're going to have some money to do your Sunday picks, and with those picks, Lou, what do you like on Sunday?
All right, man. So my Thanksgiving was I'm going to ride a thing, and that was anti. Well, I liked what I saw from Tampa Bay, and I think I want to keep riding that horse,
All right?
And I do like that it's only 5.5 points. It's less than a touchdown. We have noticed that Carolina is in that vein of a team that just played Kansas City that tends to underperform the next week.
Yep.
I think people are giving them like 1.5 to 2 to 3 points because they think, oh, Carolina played Kansas City well. Well, guess what? Kansas City plays crappy against people.
Yeah.
And I really love the way Baker Mayfield played last week. I know. Here's the thing, Shrewdness. Fade me. Shrewdness fans, fade me because Baker Mayfield's going to lick some ass. Okay? It's going to happen. It's absolutely going to happen. But I love the way he played and I respected the way he played.
He did.
So I'm taking Tampa Bay because I think that they are a little undervalued. They should be getting a touchdown. They're not getting a touchdown. Take Tampa Bay with the minus.
I like it. All right, Padog, Prime Prue.
Let's have
let's have Dex call in from the strip.
Bring
From the strip.
Bring.
Let me tell you what. I can't tell you how much I really love the fact that Tennessee has been playing great ball, even though they're 3-8. And Washington has been fading into the dusk. I think you could take Tennessee plus that 5.5 points, and I think you're going to win that. Go Titans!
Yay! All right, I like it, Dex. I think that's a good pick. Tennessee's D's played really well. They've played really well this season, so I think that's a really good pick. Plus 5.5. It's also been moving heavily towards Washington. That line started at minus 1.5. Washington is now minus 5.5. Washington. So a lot of money on Washington. So it's probably good value to go with.
You are actually
Tennessee.
absolutely getting good value.
Yeah.
In fact, if you're not getting that 5.5, I bet you by the time you bet, it's gonna have slided a little bit back towards Tennessee when the sharps start buying.
I agree.
We're kind of on the sharp side at the 5.5. I'm just going to warn you right now. You're probably only getting 4.5 to 5 at this point.
I like it though.
This feels like a public play with Washington and Dexter. Anti-public play, which scares the shnikes out of me.
This is amazing that we're getting that. So
it is a very non-Dexter play.
It's a very non-Dexter
which makes me worried that might not have been him who called.
I'm wondering. It may have not been Dexter. It sounded a lot like him though, so I don't know.
It did sound like him though.
So I will say, I really, for my pick, I almost took, just as a thumb in the eye of Dexter, I really wanted to take Arizona plus 3.5 against the Vikings, but I won't do that. Maybe on the side. I may do that. But for my official pick for Sunday, I won't do that. My official pick for Sunday, I am going to take the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams of Los Angeles.
I don't know where they're from or what their name is, but I want that team.
I want the Los Angeles Rams versus the free-falling New Orleans Saints. I think they are in a tailspin and got nowhere to go but down, and the Rams have some hope, and they really do want to make the playoffs. I think they're going to come in and at least win by a field goal. Take the Rams, lay the 3. Lock it up.
Nice. All right. For our fourth pick, so far we got Tampa Bay minus, LA Rams minus, Tennessee plus, and I'm going back to the over-under. I'm going Philadelphia at Baltimore under 51 points.
Love it.
That line has moved way up, and so similar to Dexter's pick. Now we're betting on
You
some value.
may not get that number we're talking about because once you have that kind of movement, it sometimes just like
It'll swing
absolutely slide back a little.
I
bit
will
'cause of the
say
too
I
hard
love it,
direction.
especially because it is actually right now for the week. It is the highest over/under number. So the fact that you could, that's actually a strategy.
That's value.
It's actually a strategy that a lot of people take is they will actually under the highest over/under and over the lowest over/under. And it's a valid strategy. So
again, Vegas isn't trying to get the right number.
Right.
They're trying to get the most money on either side because they make the most money on the vig.
Yeah.
So if you're grabbing the most value, then you are going to, in the long run, make the best money.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's a great value pick, and I agree, Prue. I think those two teams are really good, and I think it's going to get tight.
Right.
I think it's going to get tight. And for whatever reason, Justin Tucker can hit the broadside of a barn this year. So there's probably some points that are going to be left on the board between both those kickers.
Yeah, people can literally hit 64 to 67 yard kicks and also miss extra points. It's the craziest kicking year of all time.
It really is. It's so bizarre this year.
And they will hit those kicks and they will take those points off the board.
Yes. Yeah. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane.
I'm excited to see Philadelphia's D-line against Derrick Henry. He was just rolling over people this week.
That's going to be a fun matchup.
Jalen Carter, defensive tackle.
It's Baby Rhino, I believe is his name.
Yeah.
And as much as Chisholm and I argued, maybe work ethic might be a thing.
Yeah.
He's a thing. He's a thing.
He's a thing,
man. He's a thing.
He's a
He's
thing.
a beast.
So as a side note, so on this, the last thing I'd like to point out is on this week's episode of I don't know what the hell is going on anymore. I would like my fellow Shrewdness participants' take on this. The Baltimore, the Harbaugh Bowl that just happened Monday night, right? Harbaugh Bowl happened. At what point in the game, I believe the Ravens went up by 7. And they had an opportunity.
This thing.
They had an opportunity
to
kick an extra point to go up by 8, which seems pretty good to be up by 8. You can't lose when you're up by 8. But they instead chose to go for 2, which would put them up by 9. And they didn't get it. So is this a thing that I don't understand because I'm old now? Or someone help me? Because back in the day, I did not understand. Brent, no understand this. What happened?
There's a lot of questions being asked, even by the broadcasters when that happened.
Like, wait, does football change? Does the rules change to where I don't understand? Like to be up by 8 seems better than 7. Yes?
But to be up 9 is worth a lot more than being up by 8.
I mean, it is, but you can still lose if you're up by 7. You can't lose if you're up by 8. Correct?
I think
but at the same time,
that's a Dan Campbell thing.
But
it is a Dan Campbell thing, I feel like.
No. I can honestly say I don't hate it as much as you hate it.
I hate it.
My whole thought is that, like, yes, being up by 7, you can be tied easily.
For sure.
Trivially.
For sure.
Being up 8, you can lose, i.e. Cincinnati when they were had to go for 2.
Yeah.
Right? Otherwise it was over.
Yeah.
It's hard to necessarily get that 2, but being up 9 is a next leap. It doesn't matter how great you are, you cannot score 2 possessions in 1 possession.
True. It's very true.
So as it gets later, I don't think that I think that it might be big brain, it might be stupid, but it might actually be big brain and smart. I just don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I'm sure that somebody's crunched some numbers.
I at least understand the concept of I'm trying to big game this.
I'll tell you this though,
worth the risk.
As if I'm a fan, if I'm the Chiefs, which I am, a Chiefs fan, happen to be. If I'm a Chiefs fan and Andy Reid does that, my sphincter clenches really, really hard because I'm like, dude, we could have made sure to not lose the game by being up 8. And it didn't end up being
Well,
anything.
because people
and it
go
didn't
for
mean
2 against us.
Yes.
People go for 2 against us.
Yes.
That's what they do. But
I know.
against other people, they don't go against. They're like, cool, I'll take the tie and take my chances.
Yeah.
Nobody after Tampa Bay did not take the risk. Nobody's doing that again.
Right.
They took so much grief.
Well, let's be honest. From game one, we all know that, and we don't know, but we're pretty certain that
everybody felt like
that Baltimore was going for 2 in that.
Harbaugh had 2 fingers up.
Yeah, right.
Before they knew it was, when they thought it was a touchdown.
So, this is the MO against the Chiefs for sure. Oh, and Lewis is gone. And all of a sudden, Lewis's bladder calls. You are listening to almost 50-somethings doing a podcast. Therefore, this does happen. This break of the action is brought to you by Flomax. If you're having trouble, Flomax can help you make sure to fully clear out the bladder canal. Is it a bladder canal? The bladder. And have a much better experience in your urination.
I believe it's called the urethra.
Urethra. Urethra. That feels like a dirty word. Urethra. So we're getting ready to wrap anyway. Well, we have to wait for Lewis now, and who knows? He's an old man, and it's taking some time here. Yep. Here we go.
Wait for it. And he's back. All right.
Well done, Lou. Well done.
I'm 48 years old. What do you expect?
Yeah, I actually just used the opportunity to plug our sponsor, Flomax, who.
I'm 48 years old. Once you get to be 48 years old, Shrewdness listeners, you're going to be peeing, and it's going to happen.
That's right.
I have actually turned 49 now.
That's right. He is the oldster amongst us. 49-year-old oldster.
That's correct.
I'm basically 50, dude.
Well, I think that's all we got this week anyway, right? Are we good?
Yeah, that's enough, I think.
Yeah.
There's a lot of football to be watched in the next 6 days.
Enjoy it.
5 days.
Enjoy it. And, take advantage.
That pumpkin pie.
Eat the pumpkin pie. This is my favorite holiday, Thanksgiving. And on a serious note, thankful for these guys in my life. Thankful for you guys listening. Really do appreciate it.
And don't forget Dexter.
And don't forget Johnny Dexter.
I'm so thankful
Spending
for
Thanksgiving
you
in
and my
Vegas.
Hall of Fame Vikings and all of their Super Bowl wins.
Thanksgiving in Vegas. Awesome.
Yep, that's all we got this week. Shrewdness fans, we appreciate your support, as always, for listening to the Shrewdness Guillotine Fantasy Football Podcast. We will be back next week to go through Week 13 results and Week 14. That's all for now. This is the Shrewdness Podcast signing off.